Good evening. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Across the board from me, as always, Mr. Tim Dennis. This evening, we're discussing an undisclosed location, Tim, in the Nevada desert that seems to have captured the world's imagination. And our guest, Robert, has been sharing some of his thoughts and ideas and the things that he's seen and experienced there. We're going to get back into that. I do want to make a couple of quick announcements. We have a really cool deal coming up. I'm going to be on Monday, the 29th. You can watch Paranormal State on A&E. I'm going to be on that episode with the cast of Paranormal State. I kind of take them out of their comfort zone of ghost hunting, Tim. We go out to the Trout Lake, Washington, Isetti Ranch, James Gilliland's UFO ranch that we've spent the last 3 years talking about. And I take them out there to hopefully experience what I've experienced on my trips, seeing the things I've seen. And we have some really interesting evidence that we're able to capture on film, and I had it with the whole cast there, so it was fun for me to be there and have somebody that could document what I see and what I saw, and that's pretty exciting for me. So make sure to watch that episode. It's on Monday the 29th at 9 p.m. Central Time. Check your local listings for A&E of what time they'll show the show. They do air it again like 2 hours later that night, so if you happen to miss the first play, you can check that out. Plus, tomorrow night, Sunday night, you got to check our website, because tomorrow night we're releasing our trip to Trout Lake, Washington, to the Isetti Ranch, which is going to take place next August 2009. We're going to go UFO hunting, Tim. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan to me.
I'm dragging you out. Now, you claim to be a paranormal jinx, and nothing ever happens?
No.
You're going to see E.T. this time. Phone home.
He better be putting that lighted finger in a place somewhere special for me to see him, let me tell you.
So check that out. The show will be back up on our site. And I also want to mention for you local people, we've here in the Twin Cities, on Monday the 29th as well, I'm going to be on Twin Cities Live on KSTP, and that'll be about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sometime between 3 and 4. I'll be on Twin Cities Live talking about my experiences at the Isetti Ranch. So check that out, and should be a good time. Let's get back into our guest for this evening. Our guest is Robert, and he is from an undisclosed area, as I mentioned, out in the Nevada desert, and he's been talking to us about his experiences there. And Robert, again, I want to thank you very much for spending time with us this evening. When we were at break, we were talking about something that was kind of interesting, and you threw this at me. You had mentioned how you thought it was kind of strange, the whole disappearance of Steve Fawcett, the millionaire. And I'd like you to flesh that out a little bit for me, and why do you think that's so bizarre?
I find it kind of bizarre that such a good pilot, a skilled pilot, a man with all his resources, a man with his background, could just about disappear from the face of the earth. I find that kind of odd. The man was a genius and a real cowboy on the space frontier. And, like I said, it's kind of fun and odd with all the technology we have. We can't seem to find this guy. And I mean, we sure love to have him back. He was a great asset to us in this country, and then, I'm sure his family would. But just rather odd. I don't know how to explain that.
Well, do you think, it is kind of strange that in Nevada, it's not like it's a major mountainous area that a plane would go down and nobody could find any wreckage or any beacon or any signal at all. Do you think that there's maybe something shady that went on with the disappearance of Steve Fawcett?
I don't see that. I couldn't see a man doing that to his family, but perhaps for a higher calling, if this was the case, who knows, maybe they would, but, and maybe, their family's been briefed and debriefed and all this. I don't know. I really don't know, but I just find it rather odd, and, God, I hope he's, resting in peace or, not in the wrong hands.
Well, Robert, who would want Steve Fawcett off the radar? Could it be another country?
That would be my guess, more so than anything, off the radar or in their hip pocket. The technology and the knowledge that this man holds himself, I sure would want him on our side again.
Maybe, Tim, maybe it has nothing to do with another country. Maybe it's the fact that our buddies, the Vulcans or the Klingons, decided to abduct him and take him on for his knowledge, and maybe he was getting too close that they didn't want that. You'd think with this guy, he wanted to privatize space travel, and he was one of the forerunners in trying to do this. So I could see the government being like, let's hold that off, because if the government has been hiding UFOs from us and activity, and now look, you've got all of these different NASA specialists, all of these former astronauts coming forward saying that they did see something on every one of the moonshots and every one of these trips out there. If private people are going out and shooting up the moon, getting up that way, There's no way you can keep the private citizens' mouths shut. The NASA officials, your astronauts, you probably can keep quiet. Steve Fawcett, he's going to make $1 trillion telling his story, don't you think?
Yeah, I would imagine so, and I would sure hate to think that our government would go to that extreme, but, again, you never know.
Now look what they did to poor Lee Harvey Oswald. I'm just kidding. One of the questions, this is always talked about, there's leaks from, people that are employed out in your area that they were doing testing on employees in that area, and that there were reports of airborne agents that they were testing, and it was making a lot of the employees very sick. Did you ever have concerns or worry about your personal well-being, and were they testing things? Because they're under their own government and don't have to answer to anybody, so there was no way to sue or take them to task for it. Did you have any concerns of that?
I would say I had a little bit of concern about it because we are dealing with substances and materials that have never been used before, and therefore we didn't know what might happen with the ingestion of such type materials, and nobody really knew at that time. So all anybody could do is prescribe using the utmost caution when using such materials and being around these materials. But I do know some people that have died or passed away under some mysterious circumstances with some strange diseases, and probably as a direct result. But is it from that exactly? I couldn't say.
Now you can tell us, Robert. We won't tell anybody else.
Any of your kids?
Any of your kids have large foreheads and big black almond eyes and little slits for mouths? Maybe they've been genetically testing on you.
My kids look pretty normal, thank you.
All right. Well, the other fun thing, kind of an interesting point on this, here you guys are this big conglomerate. You're working on secret missions and all of this amazing technology, yet you sound almost like a frat house to me. You have these different groups. There's the Coneheads, the Red Caps, et cetera. Could you kind of explain about the organizations at this encampment and what you guys do?
Every organization had their own little frat house, if you will. We had just a little bar on site, and that's where we served our own program-type people generally. But we had a Conehead organization, we had a Red Hat organization, we had a Black Hat organization, and they were all organizations on the compound that performed different missions and had different tasks going on. We all had our own little bars, like I said, frat houses, and it was encouraged to stay within those confines so as not to loose ships even when you're partying amongst people with other, clearances and stuff like that, and you all see a lot of the same stuff. So it was pretty much encouraged to have those little frat houses, if you will. I have a funny story about that one. I meant to mention earlier, and I forgot. We had an illegal alien inbounds on the compound with one of our guys' badges on him, and what it was actually a loose donkey that was out in the desert, and one of the guys was drunk, and we hung the badge on him, and the donkey took off. So we had to call security, and report a lost badge that was on a donkey.
Very good. Hey, does it plague you to have the knowledge that you have and know the things you know, and you can't share it with your friends, your relatives, and you're flying out and you're only home on weekends? See, to me, that would drive me absolutely insane.
In a very tough situation. You can't come home and tell your wife and kids of the accomplishments, some major accomplishments that were going on in your life and in your profession, and for a long time. And not just me, other people. And there's also sad things going on. There was people dying, it was just natural causes and accidents, and just on site with us. We were all a very tight organization, and we all tended to stick together on the weekends. Even all my friends I hung out with on the weekends were doing the same thing I was, because we were afraid to go out and bring anybody else in for fear of too many questions and just try and upsetting our lives a little bit.
Yeah, see, I would guess that would be the part of the life, where it's exciting to be a part of this and to see this stuff and to have experienced, and like you said, you've seen UFO craft, you've seen a true alien craft, and you've seen the hybrids that we as Americans in the world have created with the aliens for this type of craft. Just knowing that, it takes a lot of fortitude, and I give you some severe props on that, because there's no way on God's green earth that I could possibly hold my tongue knowing the stuff that you know. That's just unbelievable.
Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. But, again, it is for this country, and it still is, and we should be proud that we have people doing this sort of job, really, for us all the time. And thank goodness I sleep better at night knowing that there are people, looking after this sort of thing for us.
Were there many people in any of the groups that you know of that would break and have a mental breakdown and give up way too much information? And if so, did they vanish?
I have known, yes, of people that have, I guess, had a bit of a breakdown and or spoke too much, and the only repercussions that I have seen out of it were, well, they lost their jobs and abilities to ever get a clearance, and kind of get blackballed in an industry, especially when it gets tight, and the security clearance is your only lifeline.
Now, Robert, we've heard a lot about what happens to other people under these pressures, but I want to know about you. I want to know what happens, or what kind of a person you were before you went into this program, and how did you change when you came out of it?
Going into the program, I guess I went into the military myself, and post-Vietnam, right after Vietnam, morale was kind of low. Military was kind of down on its knees, if you will. I went in with, hoping, not knowing at all what I was going to experience at all, really, and then seeing the change that took place actually in the military and with this whole scientific community that really brought our status back, if you will, within the military. Changed my life a great deal. I'm still a very liberal person, but I'm a very hawkish liberal, if you will. I believe in the strong defense. I believe in peace through strength. And again, I thank goodness that there are people looking after us that are doing this job for us.
And Robert, I believe that children are our future, and if we treat them well and let them see the way, I'm just kidding. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back and get into another segment with Robert. So stick with us. You're listening, as you are every Saturday and Sunday night from 9 to midnight with us right here in the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Good evening. Welcome back to Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Thank you for being with us this evening and for spending your weekend evenings with us. Again, a quick reminder, if you have missed any of our shows, you can always check out our website at darknessradio.com. Click on the archives. There are links there that'll take you to our older shows that we did over the last 2.5 years, and then there's a link that'll take you to the podcast site, so that way you can go catch up with all of the new shows since August 24th when we relaunched. So you can check out all the shows that you've missed in the past, share them with your friends, relatives, neighbors, let them know about the show, spread the word, let them know that the truth is out there, and we're delivering it to you every Saturday and Sunday night in the Darkness on the Edge of Town. Our guest this evening is Robert, and Robert is an insider. He has had the opportunity to work in an undisclosed location in the middle of the Nevada desert and has seen things that only most of us could dream about seeing, and experience things that are far beyond those of mortal men. Mr. Dennis, what do you think of this evening's show and delving into this type of topic? I mean, does this... I feel like I'm trying to give these in-depth questions without... I don't want to reveal this guy's nature and let people know who he is, because we don't want to cause problems for him and his family, or himself, for being involved in this. But on the other hand, it's like you gaze into the face of God and you have so many questions, and when you're gazing, you just kind of go blank. I know what I want to know. I mean, do you have that same feeling? It's kind of like there's just so much to pick on, and so much to delve into. It's almost maddening to deal with this. There's
a lot of specific stuff I'm sure our listeners are, in fact, I know our listeners are clamoring for right now. And Robert, I got to tell you, it's interesting, but without getting in depth with a lot of stuff, it's kind of hard to believe. I'm sure you've probably heard that before. I guess to kind of expound on what we were talking about before the last break, I wanted to know specifically about you, and you gave me kind of a general answer. What I want to know, I guess, specifically is, I see how things can change with you personally by saying, well, geez, there's not as much news. The news is being extremely filtered, this, that, and the other thing. I want to know about your personal beliefs, and I want to know specifically how you've changed from before you went into when you left. Specifically, has your religious beliefs changed? Were you deeply religious before you got into this service you were in? And how did it change when you came out?
I was born and raised a Catholic. Not a devout Catholic, but I did the whole process up until I was a young adult. And I have my beliefs. I guess I'm not a devout Catholic, practicing devout Catholic, but I follow those beliefs pretty much. Well, like I said, I began to look at it many years ago as God made the universe, or we are bigger than this planet, very bigger than the Adam and Eve thing and all that, but I've always been a progressive in that way of thinking. As far as my other thought processes and how I feel and how it's changed me, like I said, I got to see the world from a different place, and once you see it that way, the world never changes again. It's once you get a picture of that world, that's your picture of the world forever, because we used to call it the real world. This is the real world, and I'm sure you've heard that though from other people in different things, because it really kind of is. Like I said, we're privy to information that was going on at the time during the Cold War, incidents that were taking place, governments that were, that were falling and being taken over in coups and whatnot, and we had inside information, unfiltered information on this stuff from briefings that was just done as a courtesy and whatnot. So it's really changed my view of the world in that I was I was a young guy going in there, and I was more of a I voted for Jimmy Carter, for God's sakes. I was more of a Democrat, more of a peacenik, if you will, and after learning more that I learned, I still am, of course, a peacenik. You talk to most military people, all they want is peace, and that's true. And that's true with everybody I've ever worked with. You got to be in there to really see what's happening, to want the peace, I think, more so. That's just one of my things.
Give me something that you can reveal to us on the air right now that shook you to your very core, that might have changed something you believed in completely. You did a 180 on it. Something that, again, you can reveal on the air that shook you to your core.
Soylent Green is people.
I can't say that I've seen those little. Actually, I've seen lots of little green people, but those were guys in green flight suits. I would say there was an incident that took place many years ago when George Bush I was our vice president, and he had showed up at our doorstep, and I was kind of taken aback by that because he wasn't even supposed to be anywhere near there, and the news had him where he wasn't.
Can you say why he was there?
Visiting us to say hello.
Now, if I remember correctly, too, George W. Bush, he was like one of the big, the senior was one of the big guys involved in that part of protecting. I mean, he was...
Well, he was the head of the CIA for years, but
right.
But what involvement did the CIA have with you guys?
Well, he wasn't with the CIA at that time. He was vice president, but I didn't have anything to do with the CIA. Not my program, but there are programs that deal with CIA, NSA, just all of the agencies, and military contractors as well, and the armed forces.
So are you saying that there was a doppelganger out there? Did you see footage of President Bush at the time on the news and then realized he was with you at the time you were supposed to be somewhere else?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that one. That really, and that's one that I feel I can speak about as well. But I couldn't believe that, he was, the world, for that matter, had him placed in one location when in fact he was with us.
So was there somebody that was pretending to be George Bush in one location while he was with you, or was it just misinformation?
I haven't gotten to the bottom of that one yet, but I know it was George that was with us. George Bush I.
From the people you know on the base and leaks and the rumors and allegations that you've heard, you've not seen the little green men. Do we have the little green men? Do we have the corpses from Roswell? Do you know if there's these bodies being stored in this undisclosed location?
I have no first-hand knowledge of that. However, there was always little jokes going on. Because there were, like I said, everything was compartmentalized again, and there were different areas with different levels of access. And there was a couple areas where even people with high levels, such as myself, were totally abandoned or just unallowed to go to. We're not allowed to go to these areas whatsoever. Abolished them. We just couldn't go there. And like I said, we'd make a joke sometimes if we had a heavy-duty technical problem that we were like spending weeks in trying to overcome, and a little joke would come out and say, hey, why don't you run over by run over to the medics group over there and take the elevator down to the 3rd floor and get one of those guys over and bring them out. But that was, that was an inside joke, and but it was one of the rumors that we were dealing with there.
Well, now, Robert, I make jokes with Dave all the time about, Elvis served me a Dairy Queen today, but by all means, I didn't see Elvis and he didn't serve me a Dairy Queen. I guess what I want to know is, who is it? Not who is it, but you had to have obviously had contacts with people who had seen this stuff up close. What to you made them believable?
The character. One such person was a supervisor of mine that had been there for a very, very long time. And knowing him as his character, he's the man that hired me. And just knowing the man's character, he's not the type of person to be running around saying that sort of thing.
And what was he saying to you? Can you tell us that? Did he see the little green man?
Well, really, it was like, I'd say, hey, what's going on, oh, so-and-so. And he says, trust me, you just really don't want to know. You really don't want to know. And I would later pry, and it kind of, that's what it came back to. That's where the little green guy was at.
Now, doing that, I mean, once you get that information and knowing that you're at the Mecca, how did you try to bribe your way in to get a chance to see any of these little guys and interact or see the corpses? There's a very famous story that Jackie Gleason, I believe, in his biography, says that Nixon took him to a very famous place out in the Nevada desert that it goes by the name Area 51, and at that location they supposedly store the Roswell crash bodies, and Jackie Gleason was in fact allowed to see the bodies. How did you not, drive people nuts to try to go see bodies at your location or at an Area 51 or Nellis Air Force Base?
A couple guys with M16s handle that pretty readily earlier.
They don't. There's no way to bribe your way into that area.
We're not working there.
You can talk about it and have a drink maybe and get some innuendo, but to get a confirmation out of somebody like that's not easy. And I mean, like people have said to me before, God, they must have threatened you guys and your family with death for talking about anything, which is why, for God's sakes, we're afraid to talk about anything. But we're trying to get some things out there. And be careful and not give away any real heavy-duty government secrets, for fear of repercussions, if nothing else.
All right, we're going to take our break here. You're listening to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. We'll be back with more. Good evening. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Make sure you join us again tomorrow night on Sunday. We're going to be joined by Richard Felix from the television show Most Haunted. The historian is going to be here telling us some of the frightful stories of lovely old England. Tim, he's going to share some of the paranormal stories in some of the places he's been investigating. He has an amazing thing coming up on Halloween he wants to talk about as well. And I also want to make a quick mention of the fact that in the second part of tomorrow night's interview show, in the third hour, we're going to be joined by Patrick Burns from TV's Haunting Evidence, which starts up again here on October 4th. And we might be joined by John Oliver, the psychic medium from the television show as well. So check us out again tomorrow night. Hear Richard Felix and also Patrick Burns and possibly John Oliver. And in the first hour, of course, we'll be joined by our local national news correspondent, Bree Sanders, and a new book review in by Susan Cummins. So bear with that. Also want to remind you, remember, we've got our Halloween party coming up. We'd love for you to join us. It's going to be out at the Haunted Palmer House Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota. Going to have a great time. We'd love to meet as many of you as possible. So come on out, say hi. We have some great hotels right in the area with low prices that you can come stay at, party with us, and feel safe. And I think we're going to also be doing a drawing at the event, Tim, for 10 lucky people that are not staying at the Palmer House that will be allowed to join us for the ghost hunt from 1:30 on. Nice. All of the people that have rented the rooms at the Palmer for the main package will get to investigate, and 10 more people will draw at the event will be allowed to stay and investigate with us as well. For more information, check it out at darknessevents.com. Click on the Haunted Palmer House Halloween Party banner, and you get all the information there on the website. Let's go back into our interview here with Robert. And Robert, again, had the opportunity to work at an undisclosed location in the Nevada desert. And, I just want to know, with what you've been told, has anybody ever in, rumor or whatever, have they told you have you heard the story that they have seen for sure? I mean, aside from your boss who just said, well, that's where they keep the little green men, is there anybody that you know or came into contact with that has seen or communicated with living or at least seen the carcass of a dead alien?
I believe so. I believe so. And, that would happen to be a couple of security friends of mine actually on base. So that's, yeah.
Can you share at all what they shared with you experience-wise?
Just wouldn't go much into it. Really, it would not elaborate whatsoever. Of course, and they were security guys too, but just that they had been around and they had seen things that were certainly not what were not human beings stored in an area.
Now, are you saying stored? Are they living creatures that are being held, or are they dead carcasses?
I was told that they were carcasses. But at that time, there may have been one alive. Now I don't know. Because I heard there was a couple, like 2 or 3.
Really? So there was possibly a living alien?
There was a possibility that one of them was alive back then.
All right. And how long ago are we talking?
Oh, over 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay. Tim, did you have a question?
Well, in Western society, and more so in society on this planet in general, we generally want our dead back to do some sort of religious rites or to put their body at rest or to, I guess, be more comfortable with the process of death. And this is only speculation, but why do you think that these particular aliens didn't come back for their dead?
Geez, they might have. I don't know. But maybe they don't know where they are. Maybe they don't know how to. Maybe if the one was alive, maybe they didn't know how to or had the technology to get them back, all 3 of them, or even the dead carcasses, or I mean, we may be talking a totally different universe here, and I just don't know that.
Maybe Steve Fawcett is being held ransom, Tim. They want to do a trade-out, a swap. We're going to get back our POWs if they give us. Going forward, what do you think is important for America and for the world to know about what's going on these bases? If you had to tell somebody, I mean, is there anything that as Americans and humans we should be worried about that's going on these bases?
No, I would say not. I thank God that there's lots of great people, men, women, working out there. Lots of really good people, talented people, smart people, dedicated people. And I'm glad that we have this facility, such a facility. There's more than one, but this is one of the most well-known, and everybody does things a little bit differently in different places, and for different reasons. I'm glad for sure that we have these facilities, and actually it makes me feel better and sleep better at night, knowing of what's being done, or not knowing what's being done for that matter.
Well, you just said that
really looking out for our better interest.
Right, you just alluded to the fact that that there's other locations. Are there other locations around the United States or around the world that we're in charge of that are like this undisclosed location in Nevada?
I believe, around the country, around the United States, there's different places that do different things,
that are
different experiments, different technology testing, different. They're spotted around the United States pretty well. The Nevada test site area is one of the better known ones, or the Nellis test range. So that's and that's pretty much, they have been pretty much dedicated to flying air vehicles because of the runways and seclusion and stuff like that.
Do you believe that what are cited as UFO craft in the West Coast should be dismissed as alien ships and are probably more just our piloted ships being tested out that area? What would you say is a percentage of what is claimed to be UFO activity is nothing more than just our craft and our hybrid craft out there flying around?
I would say it's probably about 99 to 1 that they're our aircraft or somebody else's aircraft flying around out there, with that 1% being from another universe or beyond this planet.
Maybe you could answer this as people are going to watch. In 2 nights, we went to the Gilliland Ranch out at Trout Lake, Washington, which is supposedly this hotbed of UFO activity. I've been there. I've seen some amazing things. I've seen things flying in the sky, tons of things. And, you know, I mean, there are sites that you can go to, including a NASA website, where you punch in your coordinates and it will tell you what should be visible in your night sky and at what time. Now, understandably, we can automatically assume there's a lot of test satellites, there's a lot of spy satellites, there's a lot of things that NASA is not going to account for that are flying over this location. But we're getting a lot of that. But we've gotten craft that will actually respond to signals. Do you believe that an American or a spy craft like that would signal back to let us know, or do you think that might be part of the 1% of alien technology or alien craft up there that's just saying hi to us?
Gosh, that's a good question too. I would think that maybe we would have the technology, or for that matter, any superpower out there with technology to launch satellites would have the ability to maybe recognize something and feed it back, but it wouldn't be too immediate because of just the time lag itself. I mean, even light travels at a certain speed, and generally it's not fast enough to communicate back and forth. But that would almost seem like it would have to be alien encounter if something is basically giving you a Morse code message back from like an illumination or something like that. Because just the lag times in communications themselves would cause phenomenal problems.
Right. I always thought it was strange. So many people say, oh, that's just our craft and blah, 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 and it's a spy ship. Well, why is a spy ship cruising along at an altitude where we can see it, and why is it lit up on the bottom? I would guess a spy craft is going to be blacked out so that we don't see it, so that other, installations can't just look up and see, oh my, what's flying over our property. I mean, do you from the stealth technology and the crafts that you saw, are they lit up on the bottom like an airplane without the blinking lights? Would they still be lit up so that it could be recognizable from the ground?
I would imagine that there would be some satellites out there that would basically be reflecting the sun. Is a lot of times what it is. It's just so high up that you're seeing it reflect off the sun a lot of times. If it was a true stealth satellite, you probably wouldn't see it ever.
All right, I guess satellite might not be the term I'm using here. Let's talk about our experimental ships and aircraft that are flying around up there and being tested. First of all, is there testing going on every night, multiple ships being circulated around the globe to practice and be stealthy? And if there are, would they be lit up on the bottom?
They may be lit up because they may not be trying to elude anybody from a visual standpoint, or at least like a navigation light situation. They would have to have those. It's safe to do, and you'd want to use them flying around any kind of populated airspace. Beyond that, I think it would be very difficult, though, for anybody to make out the true facet lines or the true shapes of an airplane at night, unless there was a full moon, which, by the way, is why they like to fly F-117s. In no moons if possible.
All right, we have to take our final break. We're going to come back. We have about 9 minutes left to share with you, Robert. Everybody stay tuned. Stick with us here. You're listening to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. Welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Tim Dennis sitting across the board from me. We're going to be back again tomorrow night with a brand new show. Tune in and hear national correspondent Bree Sanders delivering you news from around the United States of the paranormal and weird. We also have Susan Cummins joining us back with a new book review. And our second hour guest we're going to have is Richard Felix, the historian from the television show Most Haunted. He's going to tell us about some of the exciting new things he's working on, tell us about some of the cool hauntings, and about an event he has coming up. If you want to come on out to Europe for Halloween and spend time with Richard Felix at a very haunted location, he'll have that information for you. And then in our third hour, we're going to be talking to Patrick Burns and possibly John Oliver from the television show Haunting Evidence, which returns to the TV on October 4th on True TV. So make sure to check your local listings for that. Fantastic show, really a neat theory. And they're doing 4 specials in the month of October where they're going to be out investigating high-profile cold case files. And we're going to talk about some of those cases tomorrow and what Patrick's thoughts are. And hopefully John will join us as well. Let's get back into tonight's show. We've got about 7-8 minutes left with our guest. We're talking to Robert, and Robert is a guest of ours who is we're again protecting his anonymity by cloaking his voice. He's talking to us about the time that he worked on an undisclosed location in the Nevada desert. Without giving away the name, most people out there have probably picked up on what we're referring to. He's also had the chance to be part of the Nellis test range. You know, at break, you were talking to me and you kind of apologized for being vague because of your concerns. And I would like you to share that with the audience so that they do know that there is a real danger to what you're doing and spending time with us tonight, too.
I am very concerned about my well-being. And I hope I haven't, to the best of my knowledge, I haven't divulged anything that I really couldn't or shouldn't, at least too specifically. I was, contemplating actually backing out of this interview because I was really worried about it. But after giving it more thought, I figured if I could just tiptoe around some of these issues, I could explain it at least halfway, and for an understanding. And I'm sorry for being so vague, but I really am concerned about my well-being here, and that's why I'm a little bit vague. And
that's fine.
That's fine, and we totally understand that, and I appreciate the information that you have been able to share with us this evening. Have you ever heard? I mean, do you know of anybody that had to suffer certain repercussions because of their information that they leaked out?
Yes, more so they were. It was more of the time at that time in the 80s when everything was really super secret and nobody could talk about anything. So it was more so related to that. I do wonder about some people that actually make the claim that they've been there, because if you've been there, it's hard to make that claim knowing what you signed when you left. So that's why I really tiptoe around these issues.
Well, and I'm getting personal questions on my email here, and they're asking me, how do we know that you're not just a plant who's here to give us disinformation and keep us in the dark even more by giving us false stories and perpetuating? Because a lot of times the government, from what we've heard, they hide behind the alien agenda and the alien craft, because if we're more focused on that, we're not as focused on what they're actually doing. How do you feel about that, and can you answer to that at all?
Yeah, I can answer that, actually. It's hard for me to prove who I am and what I've done on the radio or on the telephone, but I have documentation that one could very easily surmise that I was where I said I was. I have lots of photos, none of the aircraft, lots of people, and well-known people, and photographs with me, and awards and stuff like that. But they're all very generic and very cleansed, if you will. So I could prove in what I say about where I've been through some of the documentation I hold and the people I've worked with in the programs I was on. I understand, though, on the phone or on the radio program, how that would be difficult to do. And all I could say is I was there.
For people that, if you missed tonight's show, please check it out on our podcast form. It'll be up within about a half an hour of the time that the actual show aired tonight. You'll be able to hear all 3 hours of the show going back. And we're talking to Robert, who has had the opportunity to work at an undisclosed area in Nevada, where they've tested a lot of the reverse-engineered UFO technology and weapon systems, and where they've also worked. Do you believe that we are actually, do you believe that they've given us technology where we're actually flying their craft and we're not just flying our own versions of their craft?
I don't believe that we're flying their exact aircraft, because what I saw was of their exact aircraft. They were not exactly in flyable conditions. So they would be a reproduction that we put together.
All right. Tim, you had another question?
Yeah. As an engineer, there are fuel systems to their craft versus our craft. Is there anything in there that pertains to modern day and our fuel crisis that we're having right now that maybe we could take technology as far as fuel goes and maybe discover a new type of fuel to get us away from fossil fuels?
I really would not have a good answer for that. I'm sure that the technology itself could be used to better utilize that which we have right now, but to use the fuel cells that I speculate that I saw or looked at, no. It would definitely help us, but we're not there yet. Technologically wise, we're not there yet. Even with help, we're not there yet.
Do you believe that, is that conspiracy theory again coming in conjecture that type of technology will never be available to the rest of us because big oil, it makes too much money off of us and they are putting a damper on this. And also with that kind of conspiracy theory, were you aware of stories that they were circulating that dealt with aliens and downed craft just to keep us off the trail of something else that happened? Like, let's tell people an alien craft was shot down over here and crashed, and send people over to that area to look because we actually lost one of our craft over in this area, and we don't want them here. We want them over there looking for stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm aware of that. Yeah, and it's pretty well practiced throughout. Yeah, and that's not what I'm doing right now. But yeah, that's a tactic of our government. As far as them holding back the technology for the benefit of the oil companies, I don't know. I'm with you guys on that one. I mean, I'm just like the rest of everybody else here. I would hope not. But from conspiracy theory-wise, I would also not be surprised about anything that our government might do. And like I said, I think they have our best interest at heart most of the time, but I wouldn't be surprised about anything that might happen or our government might do. And that's one of the things that I got out of being there for so long, too, is I'm just not surprised about anything anymore.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you very much for spending time with us tonight. We have about a minute left. Is there any books out there, any documentaries that you've seen that you would point people to that you think they could get more of the answers that it's already out there? They just need to look in the right place. Where would you send them to go?
I really am not aware of the books that are out there. Of course, I've seen some things on TV and heard of books, but I myself have no knowledge of any. In fact, I was considering writing a book myself covering a lot of this stuff, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Are there any of the TV specials or behind-the-scenes looks that you think actually are something that people could look at and get a lot more of the truth of what's going on out there than, just speculation?
They're only going to get so deep. Like I said, it's like an onion peeling the layers off until you get to the core of it. But you can get some pretty accurate feedback from watching a lot of the programs out there. Area 51, Aliens in Area 51. I've seen a lot of them on History Channel or whatever it is, and they're all pretty good. They are really pretty good and interesting and to boot. So,
all right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Robert. If you have to go on the run, give a call to Tim. He'll put you up in his basement. He's built a good bunker in there. So, again, thanks for spending your time with us, Robert. Thanks for putting your own safety on the line to share these ideas and thoughts with us. And we wish you much success in your life going forward. And if you do end up putting together a book, give us a call and let us know, and let's have you back on the show at that time.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and a lot of fun, actually. It's just, like I said, for my first time, this is the first run, so hopefully I can refine it from here. But I've got all my data broken out, but it's just not in the right game plan yet.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for tuning in to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show. We'll be back again tomorrow with a brand new show. Stay tuned right here to 100.3 K-Talk.